In his work, The Case for an Independent Left Party, Howie Hawkins, the presumptive Green Party nominee for 2020, outlines the need for splitting away from the Democratic Party and the party within a party system that a lot of the American left has become accustomed to. He writes this work for Green Party members and people part of what he calls the new socialist movement, many of whom are working with or even joining the Democratic Party. Hawkins begins by critiquing Bernie Sanders' ideology as New Deal liberalism, not socialism. Hawkins continues this by asserting that Bernie herded progressives and the left into a corporate party and fell into the trap of voting for the lesser of two evils, a point especially prevalent today after Sanders dropped out and endorsed Joe Biden. Hawkins continues this critique by addressing the party within a party strategy that is championed by Jacobin. On page 9, Hawkins writes, "A succession of parties over 80 years in fusion-friendly New York, the American Labor Party, the Liberal Party, and the Working Families Party, have been co-opted into being adjunctions to the Democratic Party, not alternatives." End quote. With this quote, Hawkins essentially asks, how would something like the DSA or Sanders' Our Revolution fare any better? Hawkins asserts that any progressives must still caucus with corporate Democrats and thereby concede any concrete agenda to the capitalist system. Hawkins sees the best option as creating a dues-paying party like that of the Socialist Party of America. Rather than acting like the memberless capitalist parties that are controlled like businesses, Howie asserts the benefits of a dues-paying system like the labor parties in Europe and labor unions in the United States. Mass membership parties are able to organize into local chapters and committees to run candidates and draft manifestos without interference or corruption from the capitalist parties due to the fact that one must be a dues-paying member to contribute to this process. Hawkins then divides society into three social classes: the ruling class, which comprises about 2% of the population, the middle class that comprises about 1/3 of the population, and a working class that comprises about 2/3 of the population. The goal of a mass membership party is to unite the working class and take control through the clear majority that they hold. However, many working professionals such as nurses, teachers, accountants, lawyers, etc., comprise the middle class, but are increasingly shifting culturally and economically into the working class. Hawkins then divides the working class into four main groups: mostly non-union competitive sector small business workers, the sometimes unionized corporate workers, the often unionized public sector workers, and workers under state supervision and welfare and correctional systems. Unifying these workers rather than driving competition is key to unitary class struggle. Additionally, Hawkins argues that any mass movement party must be active in minority communities, as intersectionality is an effective strategy for consolidating support for socialist ideals, and it is estimated that 1/3 of the working class is made up of people of color. Hawkins identifies the need to create power from the bottom up, writing on page 33, quote, "With over 39,000 municipal governments, nearly 13,000 independent school districts, and over 500,000 election positions in these governments, there is no shortage of opportunities for an independent left party to run candidates," end quote. Hawkins continues saying, quote, "As an independent left party takes power in localities and demonstrates its competence to the public, the door opens for winnable races at the state and federal level." Hawkins concludes this section with 5 points on why, quote, "the conditions are ripe," end quote. Number 1, the working class majority is growing as corporate power and property ownership has dominated society. Number 2, many of the educated middle class hold progressive social values. Number 3, the working class is more educated than ever, and this paves the way for egalitarian thinking. Number 4, working class living standards have declined as wages drop. And number 5, the urgency of the environmental crisis and the refusal of the two major parties to act on this reality. Hawkins asserts throughout this entire work that there is a political vacuum that could be seized by the working class, but only if we are willing to abandon the Democratic Party and put the work in ourselves.